All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our fourth episode of COVID and Coffee, Social Justice Now. Today, we have JoVonna Moxley, class of 96. And JoVonna was kind enough to remind me that she is not indeed the class of 95 because we don't ever want to be a gold team member.
No.
I say yes. Anyway, that being said, so today our topic is writing as activism, and JoVonna is a reformed law student. She is a nonprofit development professional and a builder of community. So we're going to hear a lot today about writing as activism, and I'm very, very excited. And JoVonna, thank you so much for being here today with us. I'm so thrilled to have you. And yes, one other thing, as I always say, if you haven't muted yourself, please do mute yourself. And yes, now take it away, JoVonna. All right, here we go.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Writing as Activism, the art of storytelling. That sounds so super fantastic. Yeah. As Eris said, my name is JoVonna Moxley-Knapp. I'm a proud member of the class of 1996. I am a reformed student of the law, which means that I went to law school, hated it, and decided, this is not for me. I'm a social justice seeker and the rabble rouser that you guys have all come to love. And a little bit more of my background for those of you who want to know. After I decided to love the law from afar, 2.5 years into law school, which still really confuses my parents. I moved to Chicago with aspirations of working at a large nonprofit, which I did. 2 of them, 2 very large, well-known nonprofits, where I used my writing skills to get money for those organizations, right? Also, while I was in Chicago, I used my writing skills as my voice to bring about change in my community. I was a part of several different communities, as we all are, and one of them was the far south side of Chicago. It's where I bought a house, and if you know anything about Chicago, that's not really the nicest part of the city. But they needed some change, and they needed some good direction. And I used my voice and my body at marches and things like that, and my writing in order to harass my representatives to do what I needed them to do. I continue to do that. So if we could go on to slide number 2. I somehow have finagled my way into having Eris be the slideshow person. Okay, so a story as old as time. As long as there has been the alphabet and a way to write, there has been activism through writing. Who would be considered, who do you ladies consider an activist that used writing to get their point across and to make change? Anybody?
Gloria Steinem.
Oh.
Is it Gloria Steinem?
Yes. Oh, and an Ohioan. That's lovely. Yep. So I made a list. Obviously, Gloria is actually on the list, and I have next to her name Ohioan.
JoVonna?
Yes.
I'm sorry, it's Kelly. I just have to also note, Gloria Steinem specifically is from Toledo.
Yes.
So JoVonna knows my love of Toledo. Sorry, I had to add that in.
We don't share the same love of Toledo.
Sorry.
But Betty Friedan, activist, wasn't that long ago that feminism wasn't seen as what it is today, right? So she and Gloria Steinem and James Baldwin for those of, there are a lot of people who are just now getting into James Baldwin. Amazing. He was an amazing writer. Martin Luther King, obviously, Angela Davis, you know, Martin Luther King wrote letters from a Birmingham jail. That is activism. That is the epitome of telling your story in order to get change. Way back when, Martin Luther, right? Anybody who had a manifesto that was different than what was going on in their world could be considered an activist through their writing.
JoVonna, I also from Brianna Ibram Kendi.
Oh, yes, yes.
Of how to be an anti-racist, and also Karen chimed in with Anne Frank.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And for those, my husband's computer monitor just went off, so now you can see my eyes. For those, you can obviously see where the activism lies. I wish that Anne Frank was alive when we were reading her stories. So leading into that, everybody has a story. Everybody's experience is unique to them, right? So let's take all of us, for example. All of us clearly have one shared point in our background. We all at some point went to CSG. We all walked those hallowed halls together, or a little bit before each other, because I've decided that somehow I'm always one of the older people in the room, and I'm like, I don't even know how that happened, but okay. So even though we all share that same common point, we don't have the same experiences even there. Like, it's just, we have the school in common, but then what happened to each of us individually at the school could be very different. And that story is the story that you would then use for activism. We use our writing to inform the public, to criticize social norms, and to capture lived experiences, right? So examples of activism going on right now would be Rob Portman has got to be tired of seeing my name, right? So he is, he's our senator, one of our senators. I write to him all the time. We call and leave him messages. That is using my voice and my writing power to hopefully affect change. Not necessarily. Rob doesn't see eye to eye with me. A month ago, I wrote a letter to my university. So I graduated from Miami in 2000, Miami University, Ohio, not Florida. And they were having some very specific problems, which as a Black graduate were unbecoming to the rest, to the university as a whole, but definitely affecting the Black community down there. And I wrote to the president in no uncertain terms, told him, fix this or I will stop giving money to you, right? So, and I didn't just send it to him. I sent it to him. I sent it to the provost. I sent it to the person that is in charge of their diversity and inclusion. I sent it to everybody. And I sent it to, there was one professor that was directly involved with the shenanigans. I sent it to him too. I sent it to everyone, because one way that you make change is you make your points and you make them loudly, right? So the starting point, this next slide that's up, it says, in order to bring change, one must critique the world around her. I'm very good at that. I think that that is a skill that if you didn't have when you got to CSG, you definitely have it now. And that is what you should be using. Right now, today, the things that are going on in our world, you can't just sit by and think that someone else is going to fix it or someone else is going to take care of that. That absolutely you are able to do that, right? So the first thing that everyone needs to know is it's always personal. Always. I'll go back to my Miami situation. As a Black alum, I have a responsibility to the current students there at Miami and my fellow Black alums to notice if something is being done to our community that is not okay, and to make it be known that it's not okay. And I did that, and I'll do it again. And actually I did that, and they're having, this afternoon, they're having a week-long thing of town halls so that they can get to the bottom of the situation that they have and to come up with some plan to fix it, which is exactly what we want. So in that, I laid out what happened in my very long letter. I laid out what happened, how it affected me, what needs to be done, and what you will be doing, right? So I said, what happened on June the 4th was unacceptable. It affected me like this, right? This is what should be done. So-and-so should be fired, and you should not just give us this whole, oh, we don't stand by what happened. And then if something is not done, what will I do? And that was easy. As an alum, I will not give you my money because you don't seem to care about my community, right? So that is the way that lots of things could be handled. You don't have to, I tell everybody all the time, you vote by using your money, your pocketbook, right? Your activism is words on a page, but then it's also that it's not just words on a page. You can't just say, I really dislike this, and then continue your same behavior. It's a change of behavior for the institution, Miami University. It's a change of behavior for myself. It's a change of behavior for other Black alums, right? So other examples of activism that is happening right now is She Will Know Her Power on Instagram, which is the Dear CSG page. They are, and I don't know, I'm going to say they because I don't know who it is. So they are putting up stories. People are telling the school what has happened, why they don't like it. And I also saw on their Instagram account, they have a letter written to the school, and they have demands laid out, just like what I did for Miami, right? This is what has happened. These are the stories that we are getting. This is how it's affecting us. And then they have demands for the school. What needs to be done? And I don't know if they are going to conclude and say, you know, if these demands are not taken seriously, and if we don't get this, then this is what we are going to do. And I'm not sure that they'd be able to do that, because I think that they may be current students, but at least they're going from their starting point, which is, this is unacceptable. How can we use our words to make you see that we are not going to take this behavior and just let it go? So let's see, next slide. Eris, you're wonderful. Thank you so much. So you go from the, no, wait, did we pass one? There we go. Okay, no, next one, sorry. Okay, so the beauty of what could be, what do you want to see? What do you want to get out of this writing, this activism, this point of pushing someone or an institution to do? So Bell Hooks says, the function of art is to do more than to tell it like it is. It's to imagine what is possible, right? So activism, using words, telling your story to affect some change has to be, this is what's going on. This is what I want to be going on. It can't just be, you know, oh, I'm so pissed off because this happened. That's just a complaint. That's everybody has complaints, and everyone's allowed to have them, but then what would make your complaint go away? What would make this better for you? What are you expecting the head of a company to do? Like, what if it's Tim Cook? You write him a letter and say, dude, I went to this, my iPhone stopped working, this is crap. What do you want him to do? Do you want him to say, hey, I just need this to be a little bit more user-friendly. I need all of my buttons to work. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't just say, this is awful and leave it at that. That's going to get you no change whatsoever. But going into it with a plan of saying, this is bad. This is how I'm going to change it. This is what I would like for you to do, presents them with a whole new roadmap to getting you from your frustrated point A to a non-frustrated point C, right? You don't want to just say, this is horrible, and then leave them with that, because they're going to be like, okay, this one chick thinks this is horrible. Next slide. So 100% of untold stories will be forgotten. If you think that something is bad and you never say anything, more than likely, it's going to continue to be bad. If you think that you're at work and you think that someone is taking advantage of you because you are young, like you just started this job and they're giving you all of their work to do and you're just doing it, and in the back of your mind, you're like, sucks, I don't want to do this, right? And this is not my job, this is so-and-so's job. Or if you're thinking, I really didn't like it when my roommate in college said the N-word to me. But you don't say, I don't like it. Don't say that around me. You just say, that was awful. And you tell all your friends, but you don't say anything to her. Or if you just take that story and you don't say anything to anybody. And I unfortunately had to go to a funeral today, right? 100% of the stories that my aunt did not tell us or didn't write down, she took with her. We don't know what that is. And so putting pen to paper is putting power in your own hands. Being able to relay how you feel, how something makes you feel, and the changes that you want to see is powerful and dangerous, but powerful, right? So next slide. All right, so do it. Write the story, demand the action, change the world. Like you cannot sit on your hands. I'll take today, for instance. Racial inequality in America is not going to change if people sit around and do nothing. It's not going to change if people say, this sucks, to all of their like-minded friends, and then they collectively do nothing. You have to get up. You have to say, this is my story. I'm standing in it. This is what I want. This is what you're not giving me. So how can we come to an agreement on you giving me something, right? If you don't, that's fine. You have to go into a story knowing that everyone is not just going to be like, JoVonna said she wants A, B, C, and D. I think we should just give it to her. That almost never happens, and I'm very persuasive. You have to give them some leeway to say yes to some things and know that no is coming for other things. But that's the best thing about putting it in writing. It's the best thing about telling your story, because no matter what they say no to, it's no longer just between you and them, right? It's no longer just between you and a piece of paper. Once you've made those demands known, it's then shared across the board, right? So you know it. Whoever you sent the letter to, they know it. And if you're like me, you blog about it, so the whole world knows about it. It just, you know, you don't leave it to chance that it's 100% going to go your way. That's not how activism works. That's not how life works. That's not how writing in general works. You write to make the change, but then one of the ways that you make that change is you make sure that those writings are in the hands of the most people, and they're able to be seen, and your story is able to be carried by more than just you. So, next slide. All right. This is the best quote that I have ever seen, ever. There's always something inside of everyone that wants to be spoken out. It doesn't matter where in life you are. I am a failed lawyer, but I'm mom, right? An old mom. I have an old mom blog because guess what? Lots of my friends are old moms too. You know, and we put all of our information up there and say, oh my God, why didn't y'all tell me at 40 that having a 4-year-old might have been a problem? Like, you know, it's not always fighting to make a change on a grand scale. Sometimes it is self-care to get your story out, no matter what it is, and then figure out a way to get that story in the hands of someone who can affect some change for you, or for your community, mom community, Black community, woman community, right? Or our brothers and sisters in the LGBT community. Those stories need to be told, and stories plus action equals change, right? So let's see. I'm trying to always think of like different that's not just including me and my community. So Stonewall happened, but there was someone there to tell the stories of why that happened and what they wanted. It wasn't just a protest march. It wasn't just what people would call a riot. It wasn't just that. It was poetry, and it was artistry, and it was all of those things in a great big ball. Here in downtown Columbus, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement protested for a week and a half strong, like every night, right? But it wasn't just the marches. It wasn't just the protest in the streets. All of our buildings downtown were boarded up, and they all have art on them. And it's all like Black Lives Matter and women's lives matter, trans lives matter. It's a story, it's a visual story, but it's a story nonetheless. They go hand in hand. They are not separate. So in order to be a whole person, I absolutely believe this. You cannot be silent. There is something that is affecting you. And trust me when I tell you, the something that's affecting you is not just affecting you. There is at least a handful of other people who think the same way that you do, and who are bothered by the same things, even if they're not like Eris. Eris and I are buddies. I've loved her since high school, I swear. And she is the best. I've adopted her mom. She's adopted my dad. It's a whole thing, right? We're not in the same communities across the board. But if I see, and she shares with me something happening in the Jewish community here in Columbus, and I know she's not here, she's in another state, and she's like, they did a letter writing campaign and I really need to send that in. I'm going to ask her for that information and I'm going to send in a letter too, even though clearly not me, but I'm going to do that. I don't advocate for just being an activist for only your communities, right? We have to all stand together. We all have to help each other out. And Eris is very into and a part of her. I can see her pride shirt on right now, and that is wonderful. You stand with everyone. Everybody's story is unique, but interlocking, right? So we all have to help each other out when we can. We all have to use our voices together because a collective loud voice is better. And I don't want to say it's worth more. It's just easier to get change if 5,000 people are yelling versus one person. So, next slide. Yes. No doubt about that. Activism is my rent for living on the planet. We all have a job to do, everybody. And that job is always going to be different, right? So when I was 20 and young and crazy, and I had no other responsibilities, I was part of tons of marches. I was part of, listen, Miami has had some serious issues for a while. And I've always been like, I will come to Oxford. I have zero problem driving in the car, right? But at 42 now, my life is a little different. And I can't always go and march. I can't sacrifice my body right now. I can't take one for the team in that way right now because I have a little person that I would have to take with me, and I can't sacrifice the kid, you know what I'm saying, while I'm at a protest. So my activism looks different at 42 than it did at 20 or 25 because my responsibilities are different, but the activism is still there. So paying attention and putting in stories. I will just throw in that Miami University also has a Dear Miami U IG account. And to read them brings back memories, sad ones in most cases. But that's activism, right? Instagram, I know what it's seen as. It's not just a place to share pretty pictures. And for me, your failed gardening attempts, like little string beans and stuff. There is real activism starting there. That is a starting point for some people, as is Twitter, which you wouldn't think that, but those are micro blogs. Those are places where people start. And if you know anything, if you're well-versed in Twitter, you start a hashtag and it takes off, it goes viral, and then you find your people, right? You find the people that you can share a story with, and you move forward from there. The thing about that sort of social media activism is it cannot just stay there. It can't just stay on Instagram or on Twitter or on Facebook. It has to always be your stories, what you want to happen, and some sort of demands so that there can be some action. It can't just be hashtag, we'll do Black Lives Matter, hashtag Black Lives Matter, and nothing else. Your behavior never changes, therefore no one else's behavior changes. It has to be the hashtag and a change of behavior, a change of how you spend your money and where you spend your money, a change of how you interact with the police, a change in how you teach your children to interact with the police. It can't just be, this seems pretty, let's put it up, right? It cannot be performative. There has to be action afterwards. Next slide, please. And you guys know, well, all of you who know me, like, I'm very interactive. So I have a, I have a blog. It's called Hot, Black, and Bitter, which perfectly describes me on a good day. And a bad day, as it were. Most of those blog posts have turned into letters, either to Miami or to CSG or to usually Rob Portman, because he's the one who upsets me the most. Or sometimes it's just to get it off my chest, right? To put my story out there so that someone can read and know where I'm coming from. So it's not just in my body. And then I figure out a way to use that as a starting point to make something happen, if necessary. Sometimes I'm just like, let me tell you why I hate it today, right? But activism starts that way. It starts as a point of contention that you want to change into betterment for everyone that could possibly be in that predicament, no matter what it is. Activism looks very different for everyone. Writing is something that everyone can do, right? It can be as simple as sending an email. It can be as complicated as getting your stationery out and handwriting a letter and being like, let me tell you the reason why this doesn't work for me. It is the life breath of people who want something to change, and they know that it is going to make it better for their children or their grandchildren or their community as a whole, right? We all start with this one part. We're confronting the world and we're telling it that it's incomplete or it's inadequate for us. And this is the reason why. And we're calling for a world that we want to see, that is going to be good for everyone involved, right? That is going to put us all in a better place. You can do that through writing, which is what I prefer to do. You can do that through protest. You can do that through monetary protest. There are several ways that you can do it, but the one that everyone can do, no matter what, is put words to paper and tell your story. That story can then be changed and used in an activist setting. Anyway, I'm very interactive. So if you guys have any questions, anybody want to take themselves off of mute, tell me that you agree, tell me you don't agree. I'm not going to believe you if you tell me that you don't agree, but you can tell me.
All right.
Awesome. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. It's so powerful to be reminded of the power of words. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. Anybody else? I can totally talk for 23 more minutes, but nobody wants to hear that. Not one person.
JoVonna, what do you tell reluctant writers who feel shy about their skills, their topics, their whatever? How do you get started when you're nervous?
I tell them to start a Twitter account. It's the easiest way to get what you have to say. Number one, you can do it anonymously. It's not, it is, you don't have to put your face on it. You can make a handle, like my handle on everything. Well, I have several, but my main one that I use is Hot Black Bitter, because that's my blog. But it's not like you would automatically be like, that's JoVonna Moxley, look at her. Like, so plus limited characters, right, on Twitter. So it's not, you have to choose your words carefully, and you kind of have to fit it in. You can make a thread, but everybody's not going to read all that, right? And then also, it gives you a sense of community because someone could agree with you. That you're making it public, so and that could be the beginning of a story. So if I said, my dogs are the best, right? And then I go on a whole thing about how I have one crazy dog and one dog who's just like, I just live here, right? Somebody is going to some other dog lover on Twitter is going to be like, my dogs are the best too. And then you have a community, the beginnings of one, right? So if it was something more hard hitting, like Black Lives Matter or feminism as a whole. Let's go with feminism since I've already talked about Black Lives Matter, right? And if I say, anonymously, of course, and I'm a stay-at-home mom, so this is clearly not me, but if I say, I'm being harassed by my boss or by someone who holds a powerful position over me, I'm not really sure what to do. And then I go into what has happened and what I would like to see. Again, Twitter is short and to the point. It is, somebody is going to more than likely pick that up and be like, oh my God, girl, that happened to me. And, this is what I did. And before you know it, you have the makings of an essay, right? So writing as activism is not always going to be an essay. It's not always going to be a letter. Sometimes it's going to be poetry. Sometimes it's going to be, I don't really like rap like that, but sometimes that's what it is. It's rap or it's music, The Harlem Renaissance wasn't just novels. It was a whole, it was music, it was loveliness, and it was, a way of dress, it was a lifestyle. Sometimes that is what activism looks like, which is, I told Eris, I love writing. And when I was at the funeral today, I was telling Mom, my mother, I'm like, Mom, oh my God, I got to go home. Like, I can't be here with y'all all day. I said, I have to do this Zoom thing. And she was like, well, who called you to do a Zoom? And I was like, Eris. I blame everything on her, right? So I'm like, Eris did. And she was like, you know what? And I'm like, what, Mom? My mother still remembers the essay that I wrote for college because it was about her. Mm-hmm. You move people either to anger or to tears or to happiness, right? With your words. Words are the most powerful things around. Putting them on paper gives you an immeasurable amount of power. And there is no right way and there is no wrong way. Right? There is a way that makes people want to read it. Like me. I'm very like, oh my God, girl, blah, I have been like that. So I don't really know what it is to like sit on my hands and be like, but I have found that makes people a little bit more engaged with me, because they're like, I was talking to JoVonna, she told me the whole story, and it went from A to C to B to Z, but we all got there, right? That's the way that I speak. It's also very much the way that I write. Many people have told me that when they read my blog, that they can hear me reading it to them, because it's in my voice. And my number one suggestion to anybody who's afraid or somehow like thinking, I kind of want to write, but not really, nobody wants to hear what I have to say. That's never true. There's always somebody who wants to hear it. And if people know you very well, they're going to hear it in your voice anyway. It's amazing. Not to plug my blog because it's not monetized or anything, but seriously, everybody who knows me, go over there and read it. And you'll be like, I heard you reading that to me. And it is, I write like I speak. And most people do. So it doesn't have to be a scholarly situation. It just has to be like, today sucked. Let me tell you why today sucked. Or, Rob Portman did this. This was not happy. Happy JoVonna doesn't live here when he does that. Or anything, Today I went to the Pride Parade. Today I watched my family mourn. Right? It doesn't have to be long. It can just be, today was not the best day for me. That is the beginning of something. That is when your feelings hit the page, those feelings lead to something else. So that's a very long answer, but I hope you got there. Anybody else?
Well, this is kind of a totally different view of what you've been saying, which I've enjoyed tremendously, and thank you. Several weeks ago, a writer who I've admired for ages by the name of James Tobin, he writes for the New Yorker. He wrote an article about Robert Mueller, who is somebody I, in my working days, was involved in criminal justice and had the great pleasure of meeting him, and I respected him tremendously. However, as we all know, as history has played out, Robert Mueller has taken an awful lot of, crap from our president and other people, and it was a hoax, and the investigation was a hoax, and Trump was, and his speech, when I'm sure you all heard from in Congress, was, oh Lordy, hit this speech with the facts, and then Bill Barr rewrote it, and all this is history. Well, somebody, a friend of mine I was discussing with this, said that, that's because Trump pardoned Roger Stone. Robert Mueller wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post. Did anybody read that? Probably not. It is, Google it, because at last the man opened his mouth. He said this was never a hoax. The fact that Roger Stone was pardoned is a violation of the criminal of our laws. It was wonderful. So it took the writing of James Tobin's article on him prompted Robert Mueller to write an article. I really do. I think yes, Roger Stone was a part of it, but I mean, he had spelled out who Robert Mueller was with the greatest respect. However, he let us down, and that's what it said. Anyway, they're two interesting articles to read.
I will definitely follow up on that. And I think that now it is, particularly in this point in history, this is what you want to write about, right? This right now, what is happening right now. Every day of life is can be a catastrophe, right? But this, with the whole entire world, is looking at how our country is dealing with y'all's president and COVID-19, and everyone is watching us. This is the time where our words are always valuable, but they seem to be extra valuable right now, and how you're feeling and kind of what side of the fence you're on, because as we all know, history is always rewritten in some parts, right? And so somebody is going to be like, well, it was bad and I knew it was bad at that point, but I didn't agree with him. I'm waiting for Rob Portman to say something like that so that I can write him yet another letter. But this is the time to say, this is not what I like. This is why I don't like this. This is why, I'm putting this down, and this is why I'm going to do A, B, C, and D come November 3rd. Or this is what I'm going to do before November the 3rd. I'm going to get my friends to vote. I'm going to get people registered. It's that action. So writing it down and then that action following it. I am curious to see what Robert Mueller had to write. So I will definitely check that out. Anyone else? I have been in 3 of these. Is that right? No, 2 of these little talks. And then I saw the 3rd one on YouTube. And y'all were never this quiet in school. What? I mean, are you at work? Are y'all not supposed to be talking to us? Because it is so silent. And I so don't remember CSG being this quiet.
I don't remember CSG being this quiet either.
Okay,
I do-
I have a question.
Yes.
Sorry. All right. So, hi.
Hi.
How do you deal with, for instance, on a blog or on anything that you've made very public? I have a horrible, morbid fascination with the comment section of articles, and I should stay away from it because it depresses me and makes me sad, and it's not a very healthy environment. How do you, as a writer, when you put something out there and you get negative comments, how do you engage? Do you not engage? What do you do?
Kelly.
No, I mean, seriously, I know you, but okay, but how do you engage? Because I think it's really difficult to do it in a constructive way, even when you're a good writer like you are.
That is a great question. So, Hot Black and Bitter has been public since I started it, right? And that was when I moved to Chicago. So after I left law school and was like, this is for the birds, I hate this. At first, I used it as a way so that my parents would know that I hadn't been swooped up by crazy Illinoisans and just run off and kidnapped. So there's a lot of things on there that are very personal. Not like, I wrote a blog piece after Charlottesville, I believe. It's about my brothers. So anybody who doesn't know, I have a very large family now. When I was at CSG, I was one of 2 daughters. And when I went to college, my mother went through empty nest syndrome and adopted 8 kids. So we have lots of children in our house still. And half of my brothers and sisters are white, and then the other half are Black. So when Charlottesville happened, I wrote this, what my mother told me was a very beautiful blog post about how I worry about my siblings, right? And I don't think that I got any bad comments on that, but I've definitely gotten bad comments on other things. And I go into it like this. There is Erykah Badu, before she started singing Call Tyrone, if anybody's ever heard that song, she said, I'm going to run this by you. It's my new song, right? But remember, I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit. And that's where I start, which is, don't take time out of your day to come here and crap on my art, right? But then I look at it like I never answer right away, which is something new for your girl. I let it sit there for a good 20 minutes. And then I call my mother and I say, church lady, did you read what so-and-so put on, on my blog? And then she's like, oh no, hold on, I'll go and look. And then she'll say, oh, that's not very nice. Or I hit up some of my girlfriends. I think that Julia Stevenson from CSG has gotten several text messages from me like, girl, tell me I shouldn't be offended right now, right? Or you, Kelly, let me tell you what happened. You know, I try to separate the idea of my personal feelings and someone coming for me, right? It's like writing a book and you get good reviews and you get bad reviews. And the bad reviews, you kind of just got to take them and be like, okay, that sucked and that kind of hurt my feelings, but I'll be the bigger person or some such. I'm not really good at being the bigger person. And so when it comes to engaging someone who's really, really nasty, I am full on for that fight. I don't. I try really hard to separate, like I said, like my political posts from the ones that are very, very personal to me. I do try to separate my feelings, but I don't shy away from being like, well, why do you think that? If it's somebody who's just like, I really didn't like this, but why? If it's somebody who's like, oh, you're dumb, and then there's expletives and blah, blah, then I'm like, oh, let me warm up this keyboard because I'm about to get you. You know, there is a reason that people do this for self-care. And if you're in a place where it's just bad for you to see that, I would say make it private. But for me, that doesn't make or break my day, right? That in particular, probably because I have strengthened my resolve by being on Twitter and having a very public Facebook page for my blog, which there have been people on there, and you know what? I'm free with the block button too. I'll be like, oh, click. I just don't. There are things that I can joke about. There are things that I can be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Or explain to me why you feel differently than this. Or do you have life experiences that put you on a separate side from me? But then there's always some jerk that you got to be like, I ain't trying to listen to you. Click. No, you know, and you cut it out. I have blocked people. I've unfriended people. I'm so free on the Facebook and the social media. Because you go to those places for solace, right? You go to your blog for a place to put down your own personal things. And even if it is private or public, you don't have to put up with everything. And I certainly do. I certainly do not. So I'm very big on the challenging people who challenge me. So if they have something to say, I do actually want to hear it. But if it's going, as my mother would say, if they're using colorful words, oh, I have the most colorful vocabulary that there is, and I'll get you back. Yeah. So it just depends on how things are looking in the comment department. You can always shut your comments off. You can do that on YouTube. You can do that on a blog. You can, you don't have to take abuse. I think that everybody should probably leave themselves open for comments that are going to be different than yours, but abuse is something else. And I'm always like, I am forever in this mode, this I wish somebody would. Please, God, please let them, right? That's where I live. And so if there is ever a situation where somebody's like, you know, I like your writing style, but what you said is crap, and this is the reason why, I'm going to take that as a critique, but then I'm also going to be like, but why is it though? Oh, you think I should do this, this, that? Like, are you Mrs. Lodge? Are you my English teacher? Or, you know, I will interact, but then abuse is cut off. So I live in the comment section too. And there are some comments on that blog, girl, it just is. But you take the good and you take the bad. And I have no problem giving back as well as I get. So anybody else?
Yes, I have one quick question.
Yes.
And that question is, when you're writing and you're organizing your thoughts and you're finding your community, is there any one place that you recommend? I mean, because we've talked about Facebook, we've talked about Twitter, we've talked about Instagram. You know, I mean, maybe I'm answering my own question, but is there
any place, like a starting place to find the beginnings of your community?
Yeah.
You know what? I know that I have said social media places, but I'm very comfortable with my face-to-face community also. So I started at my mom's house. Like, I was like, hey, I'm gonna write this, what you think? And my mom's like, okay. My dad's like, no. You know, that was the beginning of my community. And then I kind of branched out. It takes so long. Well, it took so long. This was 10 years ago. I joined Twitter, right? God, that makes me feel old. Whatever. 10 years ago, I joined Twitter, and it wasn't like my community was just there. But I started to follow. I made my own community. So I started to follow people who were like-minded individuals, right? So I'm trying to think of who, like, do you guys know who Zerlina Maxwell is? She's on, I think she's a contributor on CNN. Simone Sanders, who is also a contributor, and she's on the Biden campaign. People like that, right? So I start really, really big. And then I see who follows them. And then I see, that's the best thing about Twitter. You can go be nosy, right? So you can click and be like, I don't agree with none of that. Not you, you know, next person. And then you kind of meld yourself into a group, and then you get closer to people in that group. The law community, even though I am not a practicing attorney, I don't get the same lawyer jokes that everybody else who I know who's a lawyer. We don't get it. Like, we're like, that's not funny, right? So we're our own community. We all kind of follow each other. And when the Supreme Court judgments come out, we're like, oh, look at that. And you can tell we're all law nerds. And so we're all on Twitter like, oh my God, girl, did you see what happened? Like, your communities kind of make themselves from people that you know, or people that just, it's like making friends at college. Except you might not ever meet these people. Mark and I are friends with this young lady who lives in Rhode Island. She's a college professor. We've never once met her in person. We met her online. And, you know, she got married, and we're like sending her stuff. She got a birth announcement from Kenzie. Like, it's like, but we've never met her. She is, though, our community. Like, when you go on Facebook and you see like all the posts, I'm like, oh my God, that sounds like something I would write, you know? So I'm like, I love you. So we just happened upon each other. And that's kind of how, the best communities are made, right? You put your thoughts out there, or you go in search of. Best thing about social media is keyword search. Like, you can tell yay or nay really quickly if they are pro whatever you are looking for or anti. And then you can go back and, like I said, you could be nosy and be like, nah, girl, that was good, but all this is just crazy. Can't follow you, you know, or anything like that. So it's easier to build a community than it is to keep a community, because as we all know, you get on one little strand and half of your community disagrees with you. That's they are probably like, I don't have, like me, I'm not following you anymore. You know, like, no. So it's easy to find, harder to keep type deal.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have time if there is one last question? Going once, going twice. Okay. Well, in that case, it is now, I'm going to, oh, Karen, yes?
I mean, I can you just give us a minute on like journal writing? Like, were you a journal writer when you were younger? How do you use journal writing?
Okay, so I'm really, really bad. I'm the chick that buys the calendar and I use it for like the first 3 weeks of January, and then I pick it up again in September. Like, oh girl, what happened? Like, so I am, because I am always very much like, this
Right.
is always in my hand. And I'm getting text messages. I always have this with me. It's easier for me to do everything online. I used to write journals when I was, I want to say 13. And it was all good and it was all fun till your mom finds your journal, and then you're like, like, man, right? But I have girlfriends who only write things down, and that is perfect for them. My brain just doesn't do, like, I have a mommy blog and I have it on my phone, because when things happen and Kinsey says something ridiculous, which she does every day, I have to type it really quick while I remember it, and then I post it, and then I don't even remember that I did that for another week, right? And so Mark's like, oh, I just saw your post from a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, okay, you know, it for me, digital works. For my one good girlfriend, she has her journals from when she was like 10, and we're in our 40s, and she just has them all lined up on her bookshelf. Every once in a while she'll go back and review, and I'm not really like, now the bullet journaling and all that stuff is really big, which is wonderful. I don't have the wherewithal, the time to be like, let me make this pretty, because I'm just gonna be like, today was, yeah, you know, like I don't, that's not my preference, but that's because my preference is digital.
Okay, I think that we are going to wrap, because I think Karen was the last question.
Okay.
I think, okay. JoVonna, thank you so much for coming today and presenting today, and your presentation was just glorious. I am ever so grateful. And as I always say, I will, to all of the contributors coming to the program, that I will ask you once, but after that you have a open door invitation if you'd like to return. So yeah, so there's that. And I want to tell everyone that we have our next episode that's coming up is episode 5, which is Implicit Bias with Irina Banks, class of 92. And yes, so again, thank you to everyone who joined us today. Thank you to everyone who is watching on YouTube. And as I always say, here's to the progress, here's to the work. Thank you.
Thank you.